Welcome back to episode 3 of Vibecoding a mobile app. In the last episode, we used Claude Code and Xcode to build the app, and then we got the app to successfully run in Simulator. Awesome place to start, but this is usually where the project starts going sideways. Scope creep. So we want to avoid scope creep at all costs. In this episode, I'm going to give you the playbook and the prompts to avoid it. So let's dive in. All right, so in this series, we are vibe coding a mobile app, and specifically, we are vibe coding an iOS app. The app that we are trying to build is a what do you eat for dinner app. So the idea is that you would log into the app, you would link with your partner, and you would get a recipe idea on your screen. If you like the idea, you would swipe right. If you don't like it, you would swipe left. And then if you and your partner both swipe right on the same recipe, you would be notified, and then you'd be able to make that recipe. Following along here from the first two episodes, in the first episode, we came up with the idea, we validated the idea, and then ultimately recreated a waitlist and a landing page for the site. So we had a way for people that were interested to sign up to join the waitlist. And then we also built out this playbook using inspiration and ideas from YouTube videos. So then in episode 2, we took the idea and then we used Claude Code to actually build out the app. We use Xcode to start the project, and then we also use the simulator to actually test out the app. And so in this episode, we're going to be making sure that we can actually complete the MVP to get to a point where we are ready to do testing with myself and with my wife. The idea is that we can both log in on our phones and successfully complete the MVP. So in this episode, we're going to be using ChatGPT and Claude Code. So let's jump over to Claude Code to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to initiate the project with Claude Code so that it can get familiar again with the project from where we had left off. To do that, we're just going to use the /init and let that run. And then while that runs, we will just take a quick look at where we left off in the actual app. So in the last episode, we got to a point where the app successfully launched. And then we had the ability to either swipe right on a meal, swipe left on a meal. This was very basic. We just wanted to get to the point that we could actually open up the app and take a few actions. So in this episode, we want to make sure that we complete the MVP that we had originally set out to do. So if we look at the app here, we can look around. If we go to matches, we don't have any matches yet, which makes sense because we haven't signed up another account for anyone else other than the initial login. It looks like we can also do some clicking, and okay, so we said we don't like that meal, and so the check mark works. So it looks like we have swipes work. We also have the ability to click, so that's all great. So yeah, so we're gonna go back to Claude Code now. All right, and so since that was my first time running that command in this project, it created the claude.md file for the first time. And so what the claude.md file is a way for Claude to keep track of where it is in the project. So it's a great way to provide Claude Code with context. So anytime you start the project up again, you start using Claude Code will look at this file first to make sure it has an understanding of what we're doing with the app. So if we just do a quick flip through from this, but we have the project overview, the current state, the build and run. So it has all the high level information that Claude Code needs in order to maintain context while we're working with it. So that's great. Why don't we now head over to ChatGPT to come up with a plan for today's iteration loop that we're about to dive through? All right, so I have a pre-built prompt that we're going to do, but the idea is that we are going to take the MVP that we had built in episode 2, and we are going to come up with a test script that we can run through to make sure that the app is meeting each of the requirements on the MVP before we move forward. So we're going to say, you are my MVP test designer. Use only the MVP spec below. Do not add features or output. And then so what we're going to output is an MVP test script and then a backlog template for us to write down and document the failed steps. And I pasted in the MVP spec document from episode 2. So we'll submit that. Okay, so this part is really important. And right now, like I mentioned, we're in this vibe coding build loop. You can quickly go off script here and you can end up going in 1,000 different directions with scope creep. So it's really important for us right now to just make sure that we're staying true to the MVP. And I've mentioned this before, but we're going to treat the MVP as our true North Star for this project. So as we go through here and work through each of the features that we want included in this MVP, if it's not on that document, we're not doing it. So if as we're going through, we see something that we have that we might want to improve the UI, or we don't like the look of something, we can add that to a separate backlog list, but we're not going to include that in this initial loop in order to just finish out the MVP. So in order for us to stay on track, we're going to be using the MVP as our true North Star. Okay, so that finished. And so we have our happy path test script. For the test script, we're going to do a fresh install. We're going to create my account. We're not going to have a pair yet. So on the pair screen, so it says you land in a pair screen, create pair, join pair. Okay, so I'm going to create the pair. Swipe screen works for user A. Okay, and then so for user B, I'm going to create the account for user B, and then we're going to join the pair. And then swipe for the same meals, view matches, persistency, sanity check, close and relaunch the app for user A. Okay, so let's pull back, open the app on the simulator. And the first thing I'm going to notice, and I think we're going to want to try to tackle this before we move on to anything else, but there's no way at looking at the app right now to figure out who I'm signed in as, and there's actually no way to sign out. So I think I want to just address that first before we move into any of the other features on the MVP. So I'm going to work with Claude Code to come up with a plan to fix that. So let's go to Claude Code, and we're going to go into plan mode by hitting Shift Tab twice. And then we're going to say, I want to build out the user authentication. Can you create a plan to get this going? Okay, so this is really cool. Really the last few weeks, I've been using Claude Code in the command line more often than using the extension. And it was because there were some features that were pretty cool, but it looks like we're actually getting those now in the extension. So I have multiple choice options here. So it's asking me questions and I can just click. It's a little easier than just typing it out. So that's awesome to see that that's in the extension. But okay, so we have a few questions. So should the app support both sign up new users and sign in existing users on the same screen or on separate screens? Single screen with a toggle tab to switch between sign up and sign in, more compact. Separate screen, dedicated sign up and sign in screens. Let's do single screen. And then do you want to include a forgot password for yes? And whoops. And then should dev auto sign in mode be preserved for development and testing? All right, so this is what we had set up in the last episode just so that we could log in. Yeah, let's just remove this, and I'm just going to have myself let's just remove the dev mode for now. Okay, so we submitted that. All right, so we got the plan. Let's read through it here. Add email, password authentication with a single screen, sign in. It has the files to create, modify, navigation flow, so app launch, loading view, no session, check session, sign in. Okay. Donations. All right, so we will yes and auto accept that, and that will start building out. Okay, Claude Code finished building out the authentication. So let's try this. So we're going to go to Xcode to rerun the project, running that, and then let's reopen up the simulator. Whoop, the build failed. So let's send that error back to Claude Code. And I like doing the debugging with just basically going to plan mode first so that it can come up with a plan before it actually acts. I feel like that helps stop the never-ending circles and going back and forth. All right, so it fixed the issue. So let's try to rerun Xcode in the project again. Okay, so we already have, so it looks like we now have a little gear icon and we can sign out. So we'll try that, see if that works. Okay, so now we have a new landing page here. So we have a sign in, sign up, which is sign up, sign in. Okay, let's try the sign up. So looks like the only difference is the confirm password. So let's try this out with my email. Hopefully this works here. All right, so I'm signed in. So that's great. And in the settings, you have still just the sign out. Okay, so that looks like that worked. I'm going to try to sign out and then sign in as a new user. So I'll call the new user like test or something. Well, actually, let me try to sign in so I'll try to sign in with the user I just created, and that worked. Okay, so now let me create a new user. Not sure if everyone uses this, or knows of this, but if you want to create like a test user, and you can use this for 1,000 different use cases with email, but if you just put the start of your email address and then a plus, and then we're going to call this test, and then you just finish the rest of your email address. You'll get these emails to your actual email address, which is helpful for this testing. So we'll create this user. Okay, great. And then I'm going to sign out and then sign in with that user. Okay, perfect. So I can sign in and create accounts. So that's great. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to ChatGPT to build out the remainder of the to-do list for the MVP. So let's see. So back in ChatGPT here. Okay, so now we have, let's see where we had left off before we started going crazy with the auth. But okay, we got a fresh install. You landed an auth screen and email, password, sign up buttons. Create an account. Yes, we did that. You are authentic. No pair yet. Pair screen. Okay, so we don't have a pair screen. So this is all right. So this is good. So we're gonna go down each of these. I'm just gonna write notes, and this is what eventually we're gonna give to Claude Code. So there is no pair screen, and that means also we don't have the ability to create a pair. So I'm signed in as the test user. So I'm gonna say, okay, so taco night, we're gonna say yes. Salmon, we're gonna say yes. Pasta, we're gonna say yes. And then veggie, we're gonna say no. Okay, so that worked. And then we have 14 meals left. So I wonder if that stays if we sign in, sign out. So we're gonna sign back in as that same user. Okay, so it did not keep the memory there. So we're gonna mark that down. Here's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna take our to-do list here. So I'm gonna say, here are the issues we ran into during the test script. Can you make this into a to-do list for Claude Code? For each item, give me the prompt I can give to Claude Code to actually build. Okay, and I'll give it the items that we found. So we have a to-do list for Claude here. So let's just review it first before we send it over to Claude. The first thing is we're going to build a pair screen user interface and routing that's missing entirely. And then we have the prompt for Claude Code to build. And then we're going to implement pair lookup on app launch. So it knows where to send you what to build after sign in, sign up. App should load current user, query pair member, decide pair versus swipe screen. Okay. So I'm going to give all of this to Claude Code, and we're going to build out a to-do list markdown file in the project so we can keep track. So in Claude Code, I'm going to say, can you please create a to-do.md with the following? And then that way, this list doesn't look like it's that crazy, but if it was much longer, I like having a to-do list actually in the project. So every time I come back, I know exactly where I am. So let's see. Okay, so then we have the to-do list. And so we have each item, then we also have a prompt. So I like including the prompt so that way we can just start going. It's a lot faster. We don't have to do any thinking. So we're going to start with 1. And so we're building out the pair screen. So I'll give that back to Claude Code, and I'm just going to give it the prompt. And I am going to start with in plan mode first, just so we get the plan so it doesn't go crazy. Okay, so let's let that run. Okay, so Claude finished that build. So let's go back to Xcode and see if we can verify that it works. So we're going to run the app again. Then we're going to open up the simulator. All right, so first I'm going to sign out, and then I'm going to sign in. Oh, no, what just happened? I don't know if I just clicked too fast or if that just didn't let us actually create the pair. All right, let me try that one more time. Okay, yeah, it's not, it's, okay, so it's, let me go back to Claude Code. So it's not actually letting the pair page stay up for very long. All right, let's see what Claude has come up with after signing up. Okay, so problem, after signing up, yes, yep. Investigation, user confirmed this is a fresh sign up, no database triggers, code analysis shows current pair must be getting set to non-nil somewhere. Actually, I'm almost positive that's what the issue, because I looked in Supabase and it looked like there was a pair. You go back to Supabase to see what I think is happening here. Okay, so for tables in Supabase, we have pairs and we have pair members. And so if I go to pair members, I have the pair ID and I have the user ID. I don't see, so I think what's happening is it's creating a pair with every user, but it's, even though there's not a second member to the pair, it still is creating the pair. So let me send this to Claude Code. There's a little bit of back and forth there, but Claude said it fixed the issue. So let's go back to Xcode to run the project again, and then open up the simulator. Okay, so pair up, connect with your partner to start swiping together, create a pair. You already have a pair code, share it with your partner. Okay, so we can create a pair or we can join a pair. So I'm going to copy this code. Okay, this is not ideal because I can't get out of this screen. So I need to be able to sign out. So back to Claude Code we go. All right, so it did that. It added an ability to exit out. So let's head back to Xcode, rerun, back to the simulator. All right, so it should have a settings gear in the top right corner. Okay, we're going to copy the code just so we don't lose it. All right, and then I'm going to try to sign out. Can I do that? Let's see. Oh, all right, so I signed out. And then I'm going to sign in as the test user. Okay, and then I already have a code. I'm going to paste that. Join pair. Does that work? Okay, so I think that we worked, and we just have no idea if that actually did do the pairing. So I think we can go to Supabase to check to see. So in the database, we have pairs and we have pair members. So we have a pair ID. Yeah, and this is the same. So we have two separate users now in this pair, in this one pair, which I think means that was working. All right, let's go back to Visual Studio and Claude Code so that we can see what were we doing with step number 1 here on this to-do list. So we wanted a pair screen to show after auth when each user is not in a pair. Okay. Create pair button, display generated pair, join pair, error. Okay. Okay. So I think that part worked. All right. So that worked. So now we are good to move on to number 3. So I'm going to say in plan mode worked. Can you mark 1 and 2 complete in the to-do.md and then move on to number 3. Okay, so that did it. So let's rerun the app in Xcode and go to the simulator. Okay, so we can see that we have 18 meals left, and then we're going to say yes to taco night, yes to salmon bowl, yes to pasta, and then we're going to say no to veggie stir fry. And so that means we have 14 left and we're on pizza. So now if I sign out, I should be back on pizza if it worked. So the idea is we're trying to keep the memory of the swipes. Let's see. Okay, we're on a roll here. So that worked. So we're back to Claude Code. That worked. Can you mark step 3 as complete and move to step 4? And so we're just going to work our way down the to-do list just like this. And that way we're just keeping the scope in check and we're not going crazy with scope creep. Okay, so it's saying that the matches have already been completed. So let's see if that's actually true. So we're going to go to the app and I'm going to sign out and I'm going to sign in as the user B. Okay, so I have 18 meals left. So if I do the same that I had done on my other user A, so we're going to say yes to taco, yes to salmon, yes to pasta, no to veggie stir fry. So we should have those matches. Oh my gosh. All right. So this thing is working right now. So we have 3 matches, taco, salmon, and rice bowl, and it did not include the stir fry because we both said no to that. So that's working. So let's go back to our to-do list now because I think we're actually making really good progress here. So step 5 was complete the matches screen. I think we have successfully gotten through the to-do list, which is amazing. Okay, so to recap what we did, we took the MVP document that we had created in the last episode and we gave that to ChatGPT. We had ChatGPT create a test flow that we could use to test out the MVP. We then opened up the app and we started going through the test flow and we started noting what was working and what wasn't working. And with that, we got a to-do list. We then gave that to-do list to Claude Code. And then we started working through the to-do list one by one. We made sure not to skip ahead. We didn't want to add additional features. All we were doing in this process was just strictly sticking to the to-do list. And that's really important because that allows us to keep moving forward and progressing towards the MVP instead of going in 1,000 different directions and end up in scope creep to the point where you have to either start over or it just takes forever to actually build the app. So I think right now we're in a great spot because we have an app that is working exactly as the MVP has called for. So there's a lot of UI and a lot of improvements we can make definitely to make this look better and probably be a little bit easier for the user. But our goal right now is simply, can we get this to a point where I can use it and my wife can use it. And I think now we have satisfied that. We have the ability within the simulator to sign in, sign out, and I can sign in as multiple users. The next step I want to do here is start testing in TestFlight so that I can download the app on my phone, not using simulator, but I want to actually download the app on my phone. I want my wife to download the app on her phone and then actually test this out there. So that's what we'll do in the next episode. So I appreciate you following along with this series. If you enjoy it, please leave a and subscribe. And if you have any ideas for where to take this next, please make sure to add a comment. Or if you have any suggestions, if you've built a lot of iOS apps, I'd love to hear what your advice is. So please leave a comment and I will take that into consideration and report back. So I'll see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.